Hi guys, how are you doing? So I promised you a video on Merlin, and guess what? I am about to deliver that promise to you and give you the real scoop on Merlin. So, don't give up on life, you guys. Don't give up on life. I know it's very difficult when people try to place us in boxes that they themselves aren't capable of being put in, you know. I understand my energy is it's a mix of things. That's why, like when somebody asks me, describe yourself, I say, I'm an enigma. I'm a mystery. That, you know, don't try to figure me out. Just let me be. Just experience me for who I am. I am not one of those people that you can pass quick judgment on. I'm not one of those people that you can look at and say, oh, yep, she belongs in this box. She belongs in this category. I am not one of those people that only paint with one color. I'm complicated, and I like that about myself. And if you're honest with yourself, you're complicated too. And I think I would rather live in a world where people were honest and interesting than in a world where everybody holds themselves back and, puts on mask in order to live a facade. That's the one thing you're never going to get from me, a facade. I am authentically myself at all points, time, and space. If you met me 5 years ago, I was authentic then, but I have grown and changed. If you met me now, I am authentic to who I am now, and I hope you give me room to change because I will be changing. I am changing in front of your eyes. That's part of the experience. And those of you that have a problem with the X being used instead of the E in the word experience, let me clue you in a little bit to something great. What does the X look like? Only those of you that passed the first grade will get that. All right. So, I almost fell into a trap this morning. I almost allowed the wave of judgment that was coming my way to allow me to get into the mode of explaining myself and explaining my actions and demanding answers from others about why they see me a certain way. And I almost forgot. I have the best mentors that anybody could have ever had. And my mentors never gave reason. They never had conversations about why they were the way they were, about why they said what they said. Either you got it or you didn't. Okay? Yeah. And those of you that, want to try to paint me as something, go right ahead because it shows more about yourself than it does me. Okay? So I am going to talk about Merlin. So let us begin. Merlin. Will the real Merlin please stand up? So originally, Merlin, his name was Meriden. And you spell that Myrdin. The birth name was also Moros. He is supposedly an ancient Atlantean who lived in Atlantis and later joined King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. Merlin has many names. One of them, well, I'll tell you all of them. Ambrosius, Ambronesis, Merlin, Merlin. He's also known as Merlin Ambrosius, Merlin, Meriden, Imries. He is classified as a wizard. The character Merlin was based off of a real person by the name of Meriden Willett, also known as Merlin. And Ambrosius Aurelianus was based off of, or King Arthur was based off of that person. So Meriden Witt was a bard who wrote many poems in the Black Book of Carmarthen, and the Red Book of Hengist. He served the King of Scotland and northwest England during a battle. Supposedly, Merlin went mad and fled into the Caledonian forest of Scotland. Those of you that are in Scotland right now and like to go visit the places that I talk about, please go and visit the Caledonian forest. Post it. I dare you. I triple dog dare you. Why don't you take your horse in there? See which one of you come out. I'm totally being facetious, darling. It's all love. You like to poke at me, I poke back. It's love, right? Anyways, so he went and fled into the Caledonian forest and lived among the animals. While living with them, he developed the gift of prophecy. Or maybe it was that he was just alone for so long that he went nuts. That's a little isolation talk. Only those of us that have been isolated for long periods of time without contact to the outside world really get that dark sense of humor. When all you have to talk to is the animals. All right, so he developed the gift of prophecy, a single Latin translation from the lost Cornish language. There's a book out there, and it's called The Prophecy of Merlin. Supposedly, well, I was able to get my hands on it and read it, and I couldn't get through it, honestly. As soon as I opened it, it started hurting my head. And not to say that it's not an amazing book, I'm sure it probably is, but I closed it immediately. So the Prophecy of Merlin exists in the Vatican Library. And I said to myself, I said, this sounds like a story I've read about in the Bible. King Nebuchadnezzar. He went mad, and he was turned into a beast by the Watchers. So I read his writings, and he is talking about things in the Bible. And one of the things that spoke out to me from the prophecy of Merlin was he goes into this prophecy about Balaam. And those of you that are familiar with the Bible, you know who Balaam is. And if you don't, run along and look into it. There's a reason why a madman in the woods was having prophecy about Balaam. Anyways, so the Caledonian forest is home to many fairies. Scotland fairies are linked to the underworld. Some of them are known as silkies, Okay, let's try that again. They're known as skelth, whatever. They're known as that word. And they're supposedly good fairies. And they belong to the Seelie court. And bad fairies in Scotland belong to the unseelie court. Seelie means blessed. And the fairy queen, her name is, well, she's queen of Elfamy. Elfamy. She was brought up in the Scottish witch trials. And it is thought that fairies fear iron. So the Gelly Dow of Gerlach, Wester Ross, lives in the Caledonian forest, and the last time he was seen was in the 1700s when he provided shelter for a lost child. And there was a battle that took place in that forest, and they wrote about it, and then they said that they were attacked by demons, and they described them as werewolves. Scotland is very interesting, and I hope to go visit one day. I hope to walk in the fairy pools and walk in the Caledonian forest. And if I come across a werewolf, I will just, well, I don't know what I would do, but I'm sure I would survive to tell it on my YouTube. All right, so that's the end of that. And we are getting closer to what God gave me yesterday. Yeah. All right. Later, babes.